A warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining. The recording has started. We are going to welcome you once again. But firstly, let us start with a blessing with a poem. And be open to this poem. Make yourself available to this poem. It's called The Eyes of the Future. And it goes like that. The eyes of the future are looking back at us. The eyes of the future are looking back at us and they are praying. They are praying that we might see beyond our own time. They are kneeling with hands clasped, that we might act with restraint, that we might leave room for the life that is destined to come. To protect what is wild is to protect what is gentle. Perhaps the wildness we fear is the pause between our own heartbeats, the silent space that says we live only by grace. Wildness, wilderness lives by this same grace. Wild mercy is in our hands. Let this be our prayer reimagined. The eyes of the future are looking back at us, at me and you, and they are praying. They are praying that we might see beyond our own time. They are kneeling with hands clasped that we might act with restraint, that we might leave room for the life that is destined to come. To protect what is wild is to protect what is gentle. Perhaps the wildness we fear is the pause between our own heartbeats, the silent space that says that we live only by grace. Wildness, wilderness lives by this same grace. Wild mercy is in our hands, mine and yours. Let this be our prayer reimagined. That's the poem by Terry Tempest Williams. And let this be our prayer reimagined. Let this be our intro into this webinar, or maybe into this awakening, this perspective. Once again, I warmly, wholeheartedly welcome you to this webinar and to the series of the webinars. Thank you for taking the step to be here today for you and for your people and for the earth. I'm inviting you to allow yourself to experience, to savor what is here to be offered. Maybe you're already working with people. Maybe you're interested to bring this further into your people. Allow this first experience to be dedicated to you, and then we'll see how this can be brought further into our people. And a gentle reminder that this is only a perspective. I'm here to present a model, a perspective, a point of view. You might take from this whatever you want. You might put it completely on the side. Maybe you want to go deeper and explore further and develop your own practices. Whatever the case, your presence here really matters. So after this warm welcome, I am inviting you to for you and for me too, to fully arrive here, even for the ones who are going to watch this recording. Let's arrive more here. You were invited to bring with you an object from nature, a sacred object from nature. So I'm inviting you to bring it closer to you at this moment, or if you don't have any, an object from nature is also the light, or the darkness, or the shadow, or the air, or the breeze, um, maybe, yeah, stone you have, anything. Maybe even your wild body is a an object from nature. So the invitation is to maybe just close your eyes for a little while and take a few deep breaths and exhale also deeply, and just connect with this object. Observe it with your memory, maybe if you have it in your hands. Feel the touch of this object, or how you remember your first touch of this object. Maybe smell it, or remember how it smells. Listen to it. Maybe listen to it beyond the words, beyond the sound, but listen to the story of this object, to all the previous moments this object, this being had in its life. And knowing the past, feel also what Terry Tempest Williams says. The eyes of the future are looking back at us, and they are praying. And let this moment of today, at this very hour, this very moment, be a tribute to Earth, a dedication to Earth, to the being that you hold in your hand, or next to you, or is next to you, and to the future beings. Knowing the gifts that this has and the responsibility that this has. And take another deep breath and a deep exhalation, and slowly arrive here. Since we are diving into, well, I'm saying diving because we are diving into this juiciness of this webinar. I'm inviting you to maybe check with you if you are at the moment completely available and ready to offer yourself to this webinar, and check if there is anything you can do to become even more available. Maybe by switching off your mobile or putting it on silent mode. Maybe putting a concern on the side, or a role you have, and just in your imagination, put that one on the side. You might return to it in 1 hour and 20 minutes from now, but now we're doing something else, and this is also important. What if we chose to dedicate this webinar And this time that you are investing to a particular being of the earth, something that wants you now, that is calling you, maybe that one, whatever that is telling you, me. Mm. Just silently, make this dedication to that being. I'm offering you my time here in the next 1 hour and 20 minutes. So may this time that we are spending together be a meaningful and soulful one. And with this being said, let me just tell you a couple of things about me very briefly, that you know who is talking to you. My name is Eleni Mikhailai. I'm a human development guide. I have experience working with eco-soul-centric development. I live in Cyprus, and I'm working with passion and dedication towards a personal and social transformation. I even call it revolution. This kind of transformation that is revolutionary and brings change. My intention today is to serve you and your people and the earth as humbly and as soulfully as I can. Aho to this. May this be true. We're here gathered in the framework of the project, the Tree of Light, which is coming to an end very soon. And throughout the project, we worked on deep connection with the inner and outer nature. So when we refer to nature, it's not just outside. When we speak about nature outside, maybe we disconnect from the nature outside, but I like to call it the inner nature and the outer nature, the inner wild landscapes and the outer wild landscapes. And this one was a project co-funded by the European Union. It has been hosted by the NGO in Cyprus called Inspiration Path, and also co-facilitated by our partner in this project, Dreams for Life. And these webinars, Tribute to Earth, is the very end of the project, and we want to share with you our learning elements, our learning experiences. And this first webinar is dedicated to awakening the wild. And we're gonna dive into that a little bit later on, or maybe right now, because here I'm offering you an invitation. I'm inviting you to spend a moment with yourself and with your journal, and to write about a story you had, with a wild being that influenced your life, a story you had with a wild being of any kind that influenced your life. And there will be 3-4 minutes for this, and I'm inviting you to take this invitation and go on and do it. If you have a person next to you, you might talk about this. If you don't, then talk with yourself in a journal. And I will play some background music while we're doing this. Describe a story with a wild being and you that influenced your life. Do you need more time? Just give me a signal with your hands. No, it's all right. Well, hopefully you had uh, already a story to write, and hopefully many more will follow. Yes. Maybe the stories are waiting for you. Maybe the wild beings are waiting for you. Here's what else waits for you now. I'm offering you another poem. A lot of poetry, yes, I know. I love poetry. Uh, and poetry speaks in ways that the other texts don't speak. So here comes another poem by Mary Oliver, this one. In my house lives the most beautiful wild animal. In my house lives the most beautiful wild animal. But she is sad. She has lost her forest. She has lost her tribe. Her very language is almost gone, dissolved in sorrow and disuse. What can you do to comfort such a creature? She stares out of the window and longs to go somewhere, but where? The nothingness of the days exhausts her. Have you ever seen an animal weep? When I touch her, she looks at me with that lost world in her eyes, hopeful but trembling. In my house lives the most beautiful wild animal. She is sad. She has lost her forest. She has lost her tribe. Her very language is almost gone, dissolved in sorrow and disuse. What can you do to comfort such a creature? She stares out of the windows and longs to go somewhere, but where? The nothingness of the days exhausts her. Have you ever seen an animal weep? When I touch her, she looks at me with that lost world in her eyes, hopeful but trembling. And I'm inviting you to imagine this wild, beautiful animal in your house. And I'm inviting you to connect with this one and look out of the window. The window that is there in your room or the window of your imagination. And to continue feeling this longing to go somewhere. And to imagine that even if you are on the first floor or second floor or 14th floor or, I don't know, 70th floor, your feet are still touching earth. The soles of your feet are touching earth. This most wild and most beautiful animal is touching earth. And may with your feet feel the heartbeat of the earth. May you feel the heartbeat of the earth. longing to connect with Mother Earth. And may you repeat after me this song. Mother, I feel you. Mother, I feel you. Mother, I feel you. Your turn. Mother, I feel you. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Once more. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. All together, the song goes like this. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. From the beginning. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Once more, this time from your heart to the earth. Now, Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. In my house lives the most beautiful wild animal, but she is sad. She has lost her forest. She has lost her tribe. Her very language is almost gone, dissolved in sorrow and use. What can you do to comfort such a creature? She stares out of the windows and longs to go somewhere, but where? The nothingness of the days exhausts her. Have you ever seen an animal weep? When I touch her, she looks at me with that lost world in her eyes, hopeful, but trembling. The heartbeat of the earth still goes on. Our heartbeat still goes on. Maybe it's now the time to reunite. Mm. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining, for allowing your voice to open, to participate in the greater song of life, the greater song of the earth. Aren't we part of life and part of the earth and part of the greater web of life? We are. Let me now spend a little bit of time just to bring a concept that maybe will make more sense now. It's a concept called eco-awakening, and it's a concept brought by Bill Plotkin, a depth psychologist who I am following and learning from. Eco-awakening. Even the words have so, even these two single words have so much essence. Eco-awakening. Awakening to the ecology, awakening to the greater web of life. It's a kind of awakening that concerns our human place in relationship to the greater web of life. And when we speak about greater web of life, we speak about that kind of web that connects us with everything else in the universe, Earth and beyond. And it could be also phrased as the first conscious and embodied experience of our innate membership in this earth or universal community. It's a membership and it's innate. We were born gifted with this. We were born offered, we were born as habitants of this web of life. But eco-awakening is the first moment that we truly deeply realize that we belong. We belong to nature, not to nature, sorry, to earth, because we are also nature. Oh, maybe we can say that we belong also to our inner nature and to ourselves. It's a kind of belonging that when we awaken to this, all the other kinds of affiliations become smaller or becomes part of that greater belonging. We may belong to many communities, interest groups, and I don't know, but this greater belonging to the greater web of life, once we experience it, it's so vital and so strong that everything else comes second. And allow me now to share something. It's I think this concept brings so much value, and it's so urgent in this moment of life on Earth, because we do live in a crisis moment, in a moment of crisis, where there are challenges and opportunities. Everywhere there is a challenge, there is also opportunity. Jumping in with some Greek words here, just to say that the word challenge in Greek is proklisi. It's a challenge, it's difficult. But the word for opportunity, or better said for invitation, is prosklisi. And just listen to these words, proklisi, prosklisi, they are just so close to each other. And they both encompass the word kalo, to call, because there is a calling, something is calling us. So when we are in these moments of crisis and the whole house is trembling and there is a big challenge and danger, there is also a great opportunity and a great invitation and a great calling that only if we allowed ourselves to listen to, we might respond to. And everybody, maybe now, not everybody, but we hear a lot about climate collapse and the need of environmental education. And I'm personally sad to see that so much of the environmental education takes place indoors. And I'm wondering, how is this possible that this environmental education takes place indoors? Not that we don't have wildness here, but we have tamed maybe wildness indoors, but outdoors there is a great wildness, and only by allowing ourselves to experience wildness, probably we allow ourselves to find this true belonging in the greater web of life. So eco-awakening is not only cognitive. It's not only, coming from the mind. There is this challenge. Therefore, we need to do 1, 2, 3 things, from the mind, from the mental. This is also important. But eco-awakening is also somatic, and it's also emotional and relational and spiritual. So this is a kind of belonging. It's a sense on our body and heart and spirit, this kind of belonging. It's a belonging that makes us realize that we, me and you, are as natural, as wild, as magical, as wonderful as anything else that lives on this planet, in this universe. So you maybe start to see also the how eco-awakening goes hand in hand with wildness, inner wildness, outer wildness. I'll speak about this a little bit also later. So if you want to name it differently, eco-awakening is a return, is a reunion with the world we are born to. And in a healthy, ecocentric society, where people are mature and nature is in the center and soul is in the center of the gravity, maybe people don't need eco-awakening because they are already awakened in this. A child, we as children, we are born connected with everything around us. As we grow up in this immature society, the need of eco-awakening is fundamental. Yeah. Yeah. Eco-awakening is needed, is urgent. When we speak about the opposite, the egocentric world, the egocentric society, the majority of the societies in which we live in, people experience themselves as the center of the whole world. We think of ourselves as the center of the world, of our world. And many immature behaviors are developed and they go on. Maybe even immature adults, bodies of adults, but psychospiritually, maybe teenagers who run after their wants, not even the needs. Who either conform to the norm or rebel to the norm, maybe lost kind of in this lost in spiritually and also ecologically, because this separation brings brings this feeling of being lost. So, yeah, there is a great crisis and there's a great invitation for returning to where we belong, returning and awakening to that fully, wholly, somatically, emotionally, relationally, spiritually, and mentally. Therefore, the practices that you see that I'm already using are not so much mental here. There is a lot of mental, there is a lot of studies. If you use internet, you will reach to that. But maybe what we need now is not another study and another knowledge. Maybe what we need is a wisdom, a body wisdom, a feeling, a sensed wisdom. Yeah, and this, this is where I'm bringing you. Hoping that you are traveling with me. Let's see. There will be a moment later on of questions and answers. So if you have any questions around this concept, please write it to Christina Mikhail, who is co-host, and she will give it to me later on, and we will answer it later on. So yeah, with this mental, yes, let's say words from my side presentation, I'm inviting you back to the non-mental. I'm inviting you back to the imaginal world. And I am offering to you a story that wants to be shared with you. A very, very old story that maybe who knows, is here to touch each one of us in a very particular way. And since stories are old, consider them as gifts from our ancestors. This one comes from India. And it goes like this. Can you hear me? Just note if you hear me well. Yes? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'm inviting you to go back in time and inwards in your heart, or even deeper, where there is a place and there is a village where this story takes place. So in that village, in very far place, very wild place of your psyche, lives a couple, a young woman and a young man who have recently got married. A couple who spend time loving each other and nurturing each other. And it seemed that circumstances brought it in such a way that the young man had to leave the village and go far in a war and protect and do what was needed for the country. And the young woman stayed there alone in their house, in their village, longing for him to return, longing for him to bring her again that feeling of safety, that feeling of company that they used to feel that they have. Time passes by, months, maybe years. The young man returns, but the way he returned was not the same as the way he left. It turned out that his heart was kind of empty upon his return. His eyes gaze was also empty. It's not that his body was injured or anything, but definitely something was not the same. It felt not the same. It felt not loving. It felt not safe. It felt empty. Something really vital was lost. Or perhaps the vitality itself was lost. The young woman got desperate looking at her husband being in this way. She was really scared if she would ever feel loved again. If she would ever feel loved by her husband. If she would ever feel nurtured. If she could ever be very authentic in his presence. If she could sing as wildly as she was before. She started going out in the markets looking for herbs that would cure him. She was asking the people at the market if they know of any medicine, of any remedy that would help him, that would bring cure and healing. But it seems that she was finding nothing. Until one day she heard of an old woman out in the mountains, living in a hut, very alone, or maybe even a cave. It was not really clear. Even the place she was living was not very clear. But she heard that this old woman had some abilities, some strengths that not ordinary people had. And she had hope that maybe she would have some remedy and some medicine to cure her husband, to cure her longing for love. So off she went, climbing the mountains, moving across landscapes that she had never walked, coming finally in front of a cave, calling from the outside, "Is there anyone inside? Grandmother, are you there?" She dared to take the first step inside. It was very dark there. Big contrast between outside and inside. "Grandmother, I'm coming for your help. This and that happened. Can you help me, please?" And the grandmother responded, saying, "I don't know. Give me 3 days and 3 nights and return in the end on the 4th day morning. Maybe I will have an answer by then." And the young woman left. And she was waiting in her house. In the same way we are waiting to find out if we can be cured, if we can be healed. And she was waiting until finally, on the fourth day morning, the sun cracked in the horizon. And quickly she went back to the cave of the old woman. I am back, grandmother, I am back. Tell me, do you have something to cure what is happening? And the grandmother says, I do. I do have something, and I collected all the ingredients. But there is one missing. Are you willing to go and find it yourself? Oh yes, grandmother, I'm really ready. How much are you willing to risk to get this ingredient? Oh, my whole life depends on this healing, says the young woman. Tell me, and I will go and find it. Well, the grandmother responds, saying, all that is needed now is a whisker from a tiger. Just one hair of her mustache, a whisker from a tiger. A living tiger, not any dead tiger. The young woman lost her breath. Oh my goodness. How can one approach a living tiger and get one of her whiskers? She left the house, she left the cave of the old woman, and she returned back to her village, contemplating, not really resting. How the heck? And how can this grandmother, how can she dare to ask her of such a thing? But on the other hand, if it's really needed, that this ingredient needs to be collected, maybe she should go. And how and where? It was all very confusing in her head, and she started cooking some meat and some rice, contemplating on the whole situation. And above the steams of the rice and the meat, things started becoming more clear. It turns out that she remembered that there was a tiger in the landscapes near the village, a tiger actually who was eating people. Everybody was really scared of that tiger, and they were saying, don't go in that location where that one is. But if she needed to go, well, what to do? She didn't know what else other than taking a bowl of the meat that she has cooked and leaving the house at the moment of dusk, the moment the sun sets down, and up she went into the hills, into unknown terrain, and she walked one foot in front of the other, in the darkness, in the complete unknown. And the furthest she could go before the fear overwhelmed her, she stopped there and she let the bowl of the meat on the ground, and she returned back to her home. Next day afternoon, she cooked again rice with meat. She took another bowl. She took the same road. She walked up the mountains. She reached the place where she reached yesterday, and to her surprise and to her joy, she found that the food was gone. So she collected that bowl and she went deeper into the mountains, into the rocky terrain, and she walked as much as her fear allowed her to go, until it was not anymore bearable to be in the dark, with the fear of the tiger being around her. And she put the second bowl with meat and rice down on earth, and she returned safely back to her home. The third day, exactly the same happens, only this time she goes further and deeper into the wilderness. The days pass by, but the tiger is nowhere to be seen. She decides on something else this time. On the seventh night, she hits the road, this time with enough meat for 3 days. And she goes far, as far as her feet can bring her. And she puts the bowl down on earth, and she climbs on a tree, and she is sitting up there, waiting. And what she sees, to her surprise, coming out of the bushes, coming out of the dense trees, is a tiger. A huge, immense, elusive animal, a beast, approaching the bowl she put down there, kneeling down and eating the meat, and then starting to purr like cats do. Wow! First time this young woman ever encountered a tiger, ever. She felt her heart jumping up and down. To be in front of such a wild creature is really a gift, isn't it? Are you still with me in the story? Yeah. Okay. The tiger eats and goes, and the next evening comes, and this young woman again gets down from the tree and puts the bowl even closer to the tree. And she herself does not even climb on the tree, but maybe hides herself behind some bushes. And she waits in the darkness, maybe under some light, silvering light shining from the little light of the stars. And at some moment again the tiger returns. But this time she sees the tiger not from the tree above. She sees the tiger in her own size, in the same level. And she even hears her sounds, the sounds of the tiger. She sees the tiger eating all the food and then crawling on earth, purring like cats do. The third night, she's holding the bowl in her hand. And she is trembling, but she's also hopeful. She doesn't want to put it down on earth. She is holding the bowl with the meat stretched in front of her, waiting for the tiger to appear. The tiger does appear. This majestic wild being comes, smells the food, takes one step closer to this unknown young woman, and a second. Maybe the smell of the food is so irresistible that they come so close that this young woman now feels the breath of the tiger on her skin. And not only that, but the tiger gazes into the eyes of the young woman, and the young woman gazes into the eyes of the tiger. And for a moment, I don't know what this happened. This is stories and fairy tales. I don't know how this happened, but for a moment, they become one. For a moment, the young woman becomes one with the tiger and sees the whole forest, the whole mountains, the whole cliffs, the whole landscape through the eyes of the tiger. Suddenly the smell, her smell, becomes so intense. Not only the meat in front of her, but also the river moisture, the night flowers, the fungi nearby. She senses the earth with her skin, with her soles, with her fur. She feels the danger and the belonging in this community of earth. And this young woman, for a moment, she feels so wild, so free, so at home as she has never ever felt before. And then all of a sudden they separate again, and here is the tiger eating the food from the bowl, which is in the middle of the hands of this young woman. And the young woman finds herself speaking in an unknown language to this tiger, saying, "Please, wild one, please, let me take one of your whiskers, because I really need it for the healing of my heart." And seems like the tiger is nodding, saying, "Yes, go on." And so she dares to take one of her whiskers. And then she bows in front of the majestic animal. And the majestic animal bows in front of her and disappears back into the woods. And the young woman just begins an intense dance. She shares shouts of joy and starts singing in all tunes. And I don't know how, she doesn't know how, her feet brought her back to her house, waiting for the moment of the sunrise, so that she goes to the grandmother's cave and she gives her the last ingredient, the whisker of a tiger. And she goes to the grandmother, full bathed in joy. "Here it is, grandmother. Here it is, the whisker of a tiger." And the grandmother takes it and looks at it and looks at it and then just drops it. And the whisker goes in the middle of the flames of the fire that was just there and is burned in an instant. And the young woman is shocked. All that she did was just gone. All the last ingredient of this recipe of cure was just gone. How dare the grandmother just drop the whisker of a tiger in this way? She was furious. But the grandmother was silent and patient and waiting. I know how you feel, the grandmother said. I know how you feel. But the last ingredient you were looking for is now within your heart and body. It's not the whisker of a tiger itself. You hold the cure within you. You are the cure. Go back to your house and reflect on what has happened, and reflect on what has been healed, and reflect on what and how you want to live your life. And the young woman returned back. And it is said that she still goes back in the woods and meets the tiger. And the story doesn't say if she has cured her husband, if she has revived his love for her. But the story definitely says that she has revived her own love for her. And she has revived herself wholly. And this is the story. This is the story of the tiger whiskers that comes from India. And I'm inviting you to spend a moment with this story. Maybe take again your journal and write down what part of the story has the most edginess or bubbliness for you. Which part of the story are you gravitating around? And I'm just gonna let this sink into us, and I will play a music for 2 minutes so that you spend these 2 minutes with this question. Where are you gravitating? Which part of the story are you gravitating around? whatever part of the story, whatever corner of the story has touched you and is now vibrant and edgy or juicy or spicy, that's the medicine that you need maybe at this moment. That stories, they hold medicine. They will touch us, in each one of us, in a very unique and particular way. Maybe you will hear even the same story. After some time, you will feel maybe touched in a different way because that's what's urgent for you at this moment. So whatever has touched you and wherever you are now gravitating around, stay with this one. Bring it further. Uh, speak with this one. I'm curious if you want. This is a way of how to continue the work with the story. Speak to that part of the story. I'm curious to know what you're holding for me. What do you see that I cannot see about me, about life? Maybe. I don't know. Mm. Mm. So I'm just gonna drop few words here about wildness, and hopefully you sensed already this wildness from the story. Even the story itself is a wild, as I've just told you, it's a wild being. It goes to each one of us very, very organically and very particularly. But let me just bring a few threads here to weave with. It seems like overall there is a collective fear of everything that remains wild and untamed. Wild beings become a threat or are considered a threat or a danger or so elusive and exotic that are objects to possess or to captivate or to conquer. While in reality, we human beings are the real threat for the wild beings because of the way we are living in the ecocentric consumerism way. And maybe the wildness that we fear is this unpredictability, this power of the wildness that cannot be controlled. So let's try to control it. Let's try to manage it, to tame it. I don't know, but there is also this, speaking about tigers, just because of the story, but you can see it for everything. It said that there is a rumor, I don't know, probably truth, that there are more tigers in captivity than in the wild, even as pets at home. And this makes my heart really sad. And so there is this fear of the wildness. And this fear of the wildness brings us into a fear of our own wildness, of our own power and unpredictability. So it's the fear of the outer wildness, but also of the inner wildness, of our own way of being. To be wild doesn't mean to be one single thing. To be wild means to be for ourselves as fierce as the tiger, as loving as the tiger, as loud as the tiger, and as tranquil as the tiger. To be wild is to be graceful as any wild being outside, to be cuddling like the tiger, and also protective like the tiger. I'm just using the tiger example, but you can use any other wild being out there. To be as sacred, as healing as a tiger. Wildness is not being one thing solely. Wildness is being who we are. And wildness maybe is the spectrum of what we can be and who we are meant to be. And wildness means belonging. Belonging to our animal body, owning our body, belonging to our body, belonging to our voice, belonging to the rhythm, belonging to um, to our tribe, belonging to the earth, to the greater web of life. So there is a great correlation between eco-awakening and wildness. And I'm wondering, can we truly act in a life-enhancing ways if we haven't come close to the outer wildness and the inner wildness? Can we truly take, the what's the word, responsibility, or protect, or do anything if we haven't felt in this way? If we haven't come closer to the wildness, if we haven't sat down still, mesmerized like this young woman by the majestic beings, if we haven't contemplated, if we haven't dared, if we haven't rewilded ourselves first, if we haven't left our village and our society to meet the greater society, I don't think so. I think wildness is being authentic and being natural. And the same outer wildness, we want it to be authentic and natural. We need ourselves to be authentic and natural. And maybe that's a place to begin. That's a place to begin. Leading our lives and leading the change that we're looking for. That is so much needed. So with this being said, I am pausing for a moment and I'm inviting you to drop questions that you have. So Christina Mikhail, you will see her as a co-host. So just send any questions you have, and then Christina will direct it to me, and I will try to weave with your questions. Can be also about wildness. The question can be also about the eco-awakening or anything else that you feel you want to explore further. Some people say they have so many questions, but not one specific one. Yeah, beautiful, great. Keep having questions. I tend to say that curiosity is the cure. I don't know if they have the same roots in English. Haven't looked into that, but I do feel that healthy curiosity is the cure. Maybe.
Eleni?
Yeah.
Could you please share the titles of today's poems again?
Yeah. And you will receive them by email too, but I can share quickly. The first one, wait. The first one is The Eyes of the Future by Terry Tempest Williams. The second one is In My House by Mary Oliver. Mhm. So whatever we've talked today and whatever we have done, if it reaches your heart, if you feel they're valuable, you may bring it further into your people. Take the story, if you like the story, bring it further, have a discussion around it with your the people you're working with, or your friends, or your beloved. Yeah, there is a question. What are some key factors that contribute to the eco-awakening movement gaining momentum worldwide? Yeah. Well, I can answer this question in today's context, and I do think that contact with wild nature is a key factor, and real contact. And I will give you some invitations of how to do that. Real contact is not a hike. It's not hiking in the woods or swimming, to cool as a leisure, as an activity, leisure activity. But it's a contact that opens oneself to the mysteries of the earth. So it's not a kind of contact that brings us from point A to point B, or from this time to this time. It's a contact that through which we leave the ordinary world behind and we enter a sacred world. We leave the the roles or the to-do list or the concerns for a moment, just to be guided by nature, to observe, to be, to witness, to love, to rewild ourselves. I think rewilding ourselves, that's a second one. So being in contact, true intimate contact with nature, is one way. Another way is rewilding ourselves. Wondering about this most wild, beautiful animal that lives in our house, longing for the forest, contemplating about this, the wildness we fear. The poem of Terry Tempest Williams, The Wildness We Fear, is the pause between our two heartbeats. Yes, documentaries might support, but documentaries mean nothing if we don't have contact, real deep contact with wildness, with the outer nature and with our inner nature. We cannot really go out if we cannot go in. We cannot go really in if we cannot go out. So it's going out with coming in. And that's because we live in an ecosystem. The more I offer, the more a tree offers, the more it gets from the surrounding. There is a family, a community of beings. And for the one who asked the question, that's just part of the answer. because tomorrow and the day after, in the next webinars, there will be more key factors about this eco-awakening, more things to add, but I don't want to speak about them at the moment. I will. Oops. Oopsie, somebody unmuted themselves. Yeah, but there will be more tomorrow. And speaking about that, maybe I can bridge straight into how to continue from now, and maybe these practices to bring you closer to the nature. So here are some invitations. I'm inviting you to find a seat spot in nature, to find a place to go out in the nature as wild as possible, and to see it and just observe. But do not observe only with your mind and your eyes. Observe with your whole spectrum of senses and emotions and imagination, and pay attention. I'm just quoting another poem of Mary Oliver. I do not know how to pray, but I do know how to pay attention. So this finding a seat spot and sitting is paying attention, being fully present, being curious, being open. What wild animal will choose to have contact with you? What wild leaf will choose to have contact with you? Which wildflower will call for your attention? Which spider will come and weave a web, her web, in between your fingers, because you will be so still and open that she feels at home in your presence? So finding a seat spot and being open to the wildness, to the landscapes, to the outer nature. Another invitation is to go again in the wild, and this time more consciously cross a threshold. Maybe go over a stone, and by going over the stone, tell yourself, now I'm leaving the everyday world behind, and I'm entering in the embrace of earth. And let yourself be pulled by places. Let the earth guide you. Where you're gonna go, I don't know. You don't know. Of course, be safe physically, but allow the wildness in your psyche to stir. Maybe there is something that calls you. Maybe you feel called by something. Maybe the wind is pushing you in one direction. Go with whatever wants to guide you until you find yourself in front of a being. And with that being, whatever that is, it might not be animal, might not be a tree, might be, I don't know, a speckle of sand. I'm inviting you that wants to know about you. I'm inviting you to have a wild, sacred conversation with that being. A wild, sacred conversation, meaning that maybe you present yourself and you tell who you are. Not what you do for a living, not how many sisters you have and so on, but who you deeply are. What are you longing for? What are you afraid of? What are you dreaming of? Maybe listen to the story of that being, what that being has to tell you. And be open, because the response might come from different windows. Maybe it comes through sensation, maybe it comes through an emotion, maybe it comes through an imagination or through a thought. And have a conversation, a very deep, sacred conversation, a wild one. The ones that we don't have on a daily basis. Go all the way in that. Maybe tell that being, I'm curious about you. I'm curious about me in the world. What is my place? Tell this being your deepest questions of life. Maybe ask that ones. Ask for the questions of that one. When you're speaking, you're invited to speak with your language, with voice. It makes it different. Of course, it can be silent, but when you speak, your language is there is something happening. And just try it to see how it is, and wait for the being to respond to you. And then perhaps thank close the conversation, thank the being, and return. So that's another possibility while conversation. And the third one is to invite your own wildness. Which parts of your wildness have been tamed and framed. Maybe I'm just giving examples. Maybe it's the voice that wants to stay too small or too loud to conquer everything else. And maybe there is a possibility for untaming rewilding your voice and singing, or speaking up for the things that you wanted to speak up but you didn't speak up. Maybe it's your movement that you feel that, your body wants to move in a particular way, and this was not allowed, or one way was only allowed. So I'm inviting you to go for your own wildness. Maybe it's something else, I don't know that. Maybe even now something is calling you. As you hear this invitation, go for your own wildness. Give space for that one. Maybe risk a little bit or too much what the others think of you. What you should do and how you should behave. And invite your own wildness. So these are some possibilities. And lastly, closing, there's one more poem for you. This one is by Kai Siedenberg. It goes like this. No matter how hard they try, no matter how hard they try, they cannot keep us apart. They can pour concrete over the rich dark earth, put us in a plastic chair inside a sheetrock box, hook us up to electronic devices and tell us we have to stay there all day. And still we will be breathing the breath of towering pines, growing on rugged mountain slopes, and tiny green plankton floating in distant seas. And even though the water we drink travels through many miles of pipe, is doused with chlorine, and may be contained in plastic bottles, still we will be drinking water that has tumbled over granite boulders, hibernated in frozen lakes, and reflected the morning sun from a spider's web. And even though the salad weed may be grown hundreds of miles away, harvested and washed by hands we will never see, and packed in a plastic box, still we will be eating leaves from plants whose roots embrace the fertile earth as their tender green bodies reach towards the light. And no matter how relentlessly we have been trained to sit still, to hold our tongues, to follow the rules, even when they make no sense, still we are animals of flesh and blood, kin to deer, bear, and whale, with deep wisdom in our bones and untamed passions in our hearts. Still, there is a wild one inside us, running barefoot through the forest, gathering sweet berries, dancing around the fire, singing to the moon. Mm. Mm. So hopefully you gathered more ideas from this poem, how to rewild yourself. And may you walk in this way. Maybe when we close now in just a few seconds, you go to the next task as wild as you can possibly be, as natural, as authentic as you can possibly be. And may you uh, appreciate all the wildness around you. Remember that you dedicated this time to a particular being. You made a clearing. So gratitude for that offering you made, for that dedication you made. Gratitude for being here. Gratitude for watching until the end, for being soft as animals, to allow everything to come into you. How you stayed here really, really, really matters. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your presence gives me hope. And if you haven't got it yet, you haven't got the message yet, go out, go wild today, until we meet tomorrow for the next webinar. Much gratitude to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And bye.
Thank you.